There we go. This guy named Nocturnal Kent. We know that this guy has issues. He's usually pretty good, but he does have his allopathic, corrupted mind. And since we were just talking to Dr. Lynn today, I think it's fair to discuss this. Now, before we do that, let's look at Nocturnal Kent. He's dead now. He's Necro Kent. I asked myself if I was going to make that joke because I don't want people making fun of me when I'm dead. But then I'll be dead, so I don't know if I'll care. Nocturnal Kent isn't just a username, it's a case study. Okay? Is that him saying that? It looks like it. A brain aneurysm. Unexpected medical emergency. Who is? You mean who was? Hollow cheeks. Rubbing ice on the inside of the cheeks causes hollow cheeks. He had a lot of fake science going on in his brain. So he went from, I guess, looking like I don't know, was he bone smashing then too, or did somebody just crack him because he was a goofball? So he went from this to this, so he ascended everybody. He hated himself so much that he turned into a Ken doll. And this is the transformation there. Of course, that looks like a plastic figurine, literally like a Ken doll there. Why does Nocturnal Kent look like Superman? He doesn't. That's a lot of Photoshop. Where's his ears? Dude, where are his ears? Did he pin them to his fucking head? Did you notice he doesn't have ears? It's kind of interesting, not having ears. And then they fall in love with themselves. He's even smelling his own finger right now. So the funny thing is that the interventions happen way too early in their life to equate it all to what they did to intervene. Because if you think about it, okay, let's see if we get back to the picture prior to ascension. Now he really did ascend. In this one, he's not overweight as he was in some of the other ones. So yeah, I'm sure he chewed on the master gum and all that, right? This stuff looks like when you get to this level of overdone, it's not good looking. It's creepy and it makes you look like you're trying to audition for the Twilight reboot vampire movie. They say Clark Kent because they're, I guess, looking at the cartoons. Because Christopher Reeves never looked like that. In the comic book, he doesn't even literally look like that. Maybe in the more recent ones, like when I say more recent, I mean like my era, because it's been around for like since the 30s. I think that cartoon or that comic started off in Action Comics. So, how much of this is just puberty? And did he legitimately have to hijack his puberty with whatever, PEDs and polypharma that he was on to go from here to there? Was that something that had to happen? Would some of this have naturally happened anyway? Because everybody has an awkward phase until they grow into their looks. And I think not being patient to at least see where things go on their own, you run the risk of causing great bodily harm, damage. The glasses are broken right there. Can you see it? Like they're toy glasses or something you just put on to. There's a space right there. How much of this are they going to be able to take credit for and equate to their doing? And if you're doing so, here's another thing too. If you're doing things just like going to the gym, staying lean, maintaining some discipline, doing some cardio, and okay, even maybe chewing the master gum for the jaw muscles, all that is excusable. It's forgivable. If you really want to put creams on your skin to make it, I don't think putting any cream on your face at all is considered in reality healthy. But some people would disagree with that because they think that the chemicals that are in that cream and those lotions are somehow not poisonous. But it makes me feel soft. Yeah, but at what a price? Your body is, that's in your bloodstream now. and getting people used to doing that. Like I have dry skin, and when I was in the colder climates, I would get like chalky on my legs and stuff like that. My knuckles would crack over here, and if I was handling money a lot, like at a register job, my fingers would all crack because of the cold. But I never liked lotions. I had girlfriends, and my mother always trying to get me to just put some lotion on, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. It feels gross. It feels like slime and oil on my skin. I don't want to do it. So I mean, those things together, though, that's whatever. You know, you can excuse a lot of this if you're going to the level of surgeries. I think this is where we have to start questioning your state of mind, your mental state. Now, I'm not a big proponent for categorizing somebody as being nutty or, you know, there's a lot of bullshit when it comes to psychiatry. The whole thing is a Frankist Jewish psyop, but that's not to say that there aren't people that are a little cracked, right? They're a little disturbed. If you have to start doing surgeries, to me, you're doing two things that are very wrong. Number one, you're altering yourself based on an image of yourself that you can't attain, you're trying to attain, thinking that it's going to make you feel happy and better about yourself afterward. But you're always going to see a flaw, and it's going to be a continuous thing where it's never going to be enough. If you're going to the level of having to do a surgery, now I'm not talking about getting into a car accident. Like I had to have plastic surgery on my nose because I bashed it into a steering wheel. Fell asleep driving home. Wasn't drunk, just young. Fell asleep driving. And thank God I had a big ass Oldsmobile, Regency 98, because apparently I fell asleep and Hudson River's on this side and telephone pole on this side. And I guess I rolled into the grass. And the funny part about it is the song "The End" by The Doors was playing on my CD player. So I hit the brakes, slid in. It was all like big, loose gravel, and I just slid and coasted right into it. And then, bam! Like the seatbelt. This was like 19, I think. It was before I went to the Coast Guard. Big, huge rash right here across my chest. I think it was before I went to the Coast Guard. Maybe it was after. Maybe it was after. No, I think it was. It had to have been before. And scraped all the way up my legs with the seatbelt too when I in it, but I ran onto the steering wheel, and I had to walk to a price chopper that was behind us. But anyhow, you're chasing a dragon, but you're also false advertising at that point, because it's not just about who you are or what you were supposed to be. Now you're trying to deceive yourself and others by going beyond what is natural. I have a problem with this because when it comes to procreation, when it comes to finding a mate and making children with them, they don't know. And if they don't ask, and if they don't see you as a public figure, what do we look for when we're first determining a partner? They have to be physically attractive, and they have to be appealing. And then we have to, in a subconscious mind at least, think about how the children would look if we had kids together, right? So it's just as of a deceitful practice if a female with absolutely no chin. I think Jenna Jameson used to have a chin, and they fixed it. There's only so many deceptions you can stack up on top of each other, and then it's false advertising as to how the child's going to look. Because if you're trying to determine what the next generation is going to look when the two of you come together, it's just as bad, if not worse, for the male to do that. No, I think it's equally bad for the male to do that as the female. And in a way, you can maybe say you're getting back at all the times that women have been augmented, and then you realize that they're not going to produce as good of a child or as good looking of a child. You're still going to love your child, obviously, but if you anticipate it looking one way because of the features of somebody, but those features have been added or augmented, I think that's fucked up. I don't, unless you're open and honest about it. Hey, what did you come to the table with, really? Because and what are you just wearing the Chad mask that you constructed out of your many surgeries and paper mache? Does that? I mean, am I making sense here? Like, I don't think on either way. You should go to your potential in all the natural ways, the healthier ways that you can handle and that you can maintain because of effort, not because of surgeries that change your appearance and will not translate over to your DNA when you're having another child. I get stuck on that part. Tell me if you agree or disagree with that. That it's not cool to do that. And I'm not saying that I don't know what kind of things he had going on, but he definitely chewed the gum, the masseter gum. I'm not sure if that also helped thin out his chin when he was doing, I'm gonna assume probably also exercising or maybe taking PEDs, performance enhancing drugs, maybe peptides and all kinds of. I don't know what his polypharma would look like, but if it's anything like claviculars, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. And again, that's not, to me, that's still not. Besides the bad habits that it causes and the potential limiting of your life expectancy or having you be dependent on pinning yourself with testosterone the rest of your life because of tanking yourself because of steroids, all that aside, or if it's Ozempic face or whatever, I still think that's better than surgeries, because when you get to the point of surgeries, that is a complete false advertisement. See, it doesn't look bad right there. It's just a front facing view. And everybody has a good side and everybody has a bad side, but I mean, there's definitely a difference. Again, my question is, how much of that was puberty? And how much of that is God knows what? I mean, there's exercises you can do with your, and you'd be surprised how much can just happen. Like that chin looks like something happened to make it stick out like that. But the jaw is something you can work on the muscle to do. And that will reshape your whole face. And then just becoming lean. And of course, prepubescent or pretty close to just in the beginning of it versus after the fact. You know what I mean? It's like apples and oranges, but don't interrupt the natural process first. Let the natural process work its way through. And you can tell this kid hated himself. Look at this. It's like he's talking about, this comes from a place of pain. Nocturnal Kent shares his horror story because of Black Pill. So here he is now, and this is all the stuff he went through because he hated himself when he looked like this. I'm all for trying to improve yourself for all the right reasons, but not if it's from a very unhealthy, self-loathing, psychological trauma, because then it's not, that's going to be your entire life. It's going to be all you ever think about. You're not going to be able to be present and in the moment for anybody that you are trying. You won't be able to get into a relationship or care about anything else because you'll be too obsessed with the fear and the anxiety of waking up and being this again, or being fat if you were fat. It's these things fuck with people so badly. And they always focus, because you're only going to see the negatives. No matter how much other people see other things, you're going to see the flaws because they remind you of something that was there, that was more prominent and present previously. That was a lot of P's there. So I think it's worth watching this. No, they don't say how the brain aneurysm occurred, but remember, and let's just go over this one last time before we start this little mini video here. I'm going to say it the wrong way. It's going to semantic me. Mineral copper does both. It stimulates the body to produce elastin and is also required to maintain it. It achieves this by activating fibroblasts to synthesize structural proteins and acting as an essential cofactor of lysyl oxidase. an enzyme that cross-links elastin fibers to make them stable and flexible. So even if you have the elastin, you need this lysyl oxidase. So you need the copper. So you have the elasticity of, why am I talking about this? Brain aneurysm. Learn more about GHKCU complexes. I think that's a peptide. I don't think you need to go that route when all you have to do is take a pour copper like this guy right there. And make sure you're taking the rest of your 90 essential nutrients. But elastin, your stomach lining, you're going to prevent hernias by having the elastin, having the copper present, and arteries that and vessels that have to expand and contract because of the flow of blood, or whatever the hell we're going to call that vortex generator in the center of your chest. It has to be able to expand and contract. If it's not stretchy, it bursts. Well, it can do that somewhere else too. If you don't have the copper, or if you have some other thing going on, like you're taking performance enhancing drugs, you're taking other peptides, you're taking something that is a not a force multiplier, although I always like that term. It's entering your body and it's forcing a condition in your body. So if you're taking steroids, you're overriding something else. You're taking charge of your own natural process and your own natural production, and you're saying, no, we're in charge. Step aside, balls. We got this. When you do things like that, or if you're on different prescriptions, you're going to deplete your minerals, and you better be careful what minerals you're depleting, because if it's one of like this, it could lead to bad things. And also, you're not putting it, chances are you don't have a medical doctor, an MD, telling you, hey, make sure you're taking your absorbable nutrients and minerals, because prescription medications and this thing and that thing and these PEDs work by utilizing what's already in your body and then depleting you of those things. And your body needs those for all of its functions. So if you take these prescriptions, or if you take these PEDs, you're going to be left in a very volatile, uneasy, and vulnerable state that any little thing could go wrong. Any little thing could tip you off balance and something could go wrong. Now, I guarantee you this kid had no proper guidance when it came to that, and now he's dead. Yes, a severe deficiency in copper can lead to an aneurysm, which is dangerous bulging or ballooning of an artery wall. Because copper is mandatory for the structural integrity of blood vessels, a lack of this mineral directly compromises the physical strength of the circulatory system. Now that we've made sure that is a true thing, and I'm not just talking them out of my rear hole, failure to cross-link elastin and collagen. Without copper, lysyl oxidase cannot create the crosslinks that bond elastin and collagen fibers together. Collagen provides tensile strength to withstand blood pressure, while elastin allows the artery to stretch and snap back. So the other potential possibility here was that there wasn't enough collagen in these areas for the lysyl oxidase to grab onto in the first place, and that could have been something that occurred because maybe he's taken a GLP-1, he's taking some sort of Gila monster venom peptide that's shutting down things, and it could be any one of these things. It could have been the copper plus other things. But we had Jo Lindner.
Hola amigos, what's up poppin'? It's me, Joe. Hey,
Brother, it's me, Joe.
hola amigos, what's up poppin'? It's me, Joe. Brother, we are back in business.
Hola amigos. What's poppin'? It's me, Joe. Hola amigos. It's me, Joe again.
Which was someone I liked very much and was very saddened to hear die in 2023 because he had an aneurysm, felt a pain in his neck, and boom, done. And they're like, oh, it was the PEDs. I'm like, he had 4 boosters because he was pressured into it. He was a good dude. I'm not saying you take your shots because you're a good dude. I'm saying he was influenced sometimes. because it was coming from peers that he respected. So when they pressured him and they said, "Oh, you're not going to be able to get into these competitions if you don't get these shots," and he wanted to compete for bodybuilding, he just did it. And then he went through plasmapheresis, and he had it done twice. And they took a bunch of heavy metals and junk out of his body after he had those shots. So he was hoping that that was going to take care of it, but unfortunately, it did not. That coupled with a great many other things. And again, these bodybuilders don't know minerals. None of them talk about it. They talk about calories, they talk about fats, they talk about egg whites, they talk about bullshit, LDL and HDL. They talk about all the things that are of little significance if you're not first maintaining your minerals. They freak out over cholesterol when they just shot a bunch of steroids into their bodies, not understanding that the hormones are made from cholesterol. So, oh my God, my HDL, LDL is higher. Well, didn't you just inject? So what do you think happened? What do you? It's not made out of pixie dust. Oh, there's a whole glitter conspiracy too. You got to walk down that aisle someday as to what the fuck it actually is. Some say it's ashes of the dead. Keep in mind, 90 essential nutrients aren't hard to obtain, and this is the missing component. This is the missing component in so many people like him, who is an influencer, and everybody else who is out there. Either they sometimes repeat and corroborate or agree with one another, oftentimes for controversy and to stand out and look different and appear different. They will critique or criticize harshly one another so as to make the other person seem foolish. And then the person who's watching it, if they're soft-headed, will feel foolish for having believed that other person. Now they're going to follow you because you mocked the other guy. It's that kind of game. But the people that are in these positions, they're still not getting all the data to the people. And I don't know, with the exception of Greg, which I think if he was sat down and talked to, I think he would actually say, holy shit, really? That's crazy. But I'm not 100% sure, because a lot of times people think that they're unique or special because of what empirical knowledge they think that they know. And when they know the mainstream truth, quote unquote truth, and other people don't, it's like a less known or more educated, again in quotation marks, data, they're not going to give it up or even consider that could be potentially incorrect, because they've based so much of their other conclusions or assessments of life on that data. So there's no way in hell they're going to give that up. And also because when they know something, it gives them a sense of superiority. If they have to relearn something, it puts them back down below that, because they don't understand that removing the deception actually makes you smarter than the people who will regurgitate it. Just because what you think you're building your house of cards on is stable, and then you find out it isn't, you just learn how the cards will never fall because you're walking the line of truth. But for some reason, you feel like you're set back down to nothing, when all you did is just reinforce. You know what I mean? Like now you know something that very few people know, but you also subconsciously know that that's not going to be popular or accepted because it's not repeated everywhere. So what good is knowing the truth if nobody believes it? What good is knowing the truth if nobody cheers you on and thinks you're a brainiac for it? They just think that you're a conspiracy theorist when you know the truth about this, or that you're defying, or you think you're smarter than the doctors. You think you're smarter than the peer-reviewed bullshit. It's a truth with less pop culture and societal or social value. So again, it'll be rejected because of that. That whole framework there, that whole formula that I just mentioned, that I just kind of depicted, holds true with any type of truth. It's great if the smarty pants is in academia and you want to be known as like somebody who is distinguished by something. If it's an intellect, well, that's cool. People think I'm smart, they think I have value, and society accepts that thing. To know a truth that society doesn't accept, you don't even want to know that one. You want to know what people are going to praise you for. So it's not about the truth, it's about the It's about the social acceptance of this nuance in you. It's why the fucking world's falling apart, honestly. Because people are chasing whatever the drones, whatever the minions think.
As I'm seeing him here, this is before he had been passed away. Latest photo, literally in ICU, the last pic of Kent in hospital. A brain aneurysm in left cleft caused intracranial hemorrhage. Coach Greg, and in today's video, unfortunately, one of the most famous look-smaxers in the world, no, it isn't clavicular, but he has passed away. As if anyone didn't already tell these individuals that look-smaxing is dangerous, but now we have proof. And so perhaps you never heard of this guy. His name is Nocturnal Kent. You would have seen him on Instagram, on Netflix, on various programs where he shares to the world his secrets on how to ascend.
And you just do that for about a few minutes each day on the parts of your face where you want the bone to respond and adapt and grow bigger.
Now, frankly, he's ascended to heaven. Rest in peace. It's an unfortunate thing. But we don't want anyone else to follow in his footsteps. As a teenager, he felt like he wasn't enough, that he didn't look good enough, that he didn't have enough of the biceps, the chiseled jawline, the hollow cheeks, the height, and so on. And so he says that he cracked the code. And so this guy who had 800 young men, probably teenagers, following in his footsteps, learning from him, doing the bone smashing, all those ridiculous things, thinking that they too could ascend, you know. If you're a 5 out of 10, you're not a Chad, you're trying to get a girlfriend as you get older. And remember, if you're not 6 feet tall, then what hope do you have? I mean, what could you ever do? And so the trick is to increase your facial features to get taller. And so how do you do that? Well, you increase IGF-1 signaling, and you eat a lot of sugar. I kid you not. Let's see.
Here's everything I buy as someone who prioritizes bone growth and uses IGF-1 signaling to stay in a growth state. First up is good old OJ, natural source of fructose, potassium, glucose, amazing. Gotta have my gummies next up. Love these, great source of quick carbs. We have pure white sugar. Of course, you know, I love this, I love munching on it.
Fructose, juice, just plain old apple juice, orange juice, whatever. Some gummy bears, and some plain sugar. He claims to be eating at least 400 grams a day of white sugar each and every day. Over 600 calories added to his diet. To do what? To increase the strength of his bones. Last I checked, bones need calcium. Had you ever heard that it needs a ton of sugar? And what do you think happens when most teenagers add in 400 grams of sugar to their diets? What do you think happens? Do you think their jaw gets wider, or do you think their bellies get fat? And so this is utter insanity. It's bullshit. How could anyone think that adding in juices, some gummy bears, and white sugar is the secret to looks maxing? It's literally every teenager's diet right now. And what do they look like? They look like shit. They look fat. They're out of shape. And so what they need to do is reduce their sugar. Start going to the gym, training, lifting weights.
I want you guys to know that carbs are not the enemy, and they're actually essential for bone growth.
No, carbs are not the enemy. It's a calorie surplus that's not needed that is. And so frankly, if you eat too many calories of anything, it is not good. But when it's too many calories of sugar and you're not active, that is even worse. If you just sit around punching your face and bone smash while eating a ton of sugar, it ain't going to do shit to improve your appearance.
I want you guys to know that carbs are not the enemy, and they're actually essential for bone growth.
Insulin-like growth factor, IGF-1, is a primary anabolic hormone that strongly supports bone growth and maintenance. Yes, IGF-1, growth hormone, and so on can increase the size of your bones. Now, however, if you're done growing, if your growth plates have stopped, for example, when I was 13 and I was my full adult height of 5'6", no amount of growth hormone in the world is going to make me any taller. And so if you're already finished growing and you add in IGF-1, you add in growth hormone, it's just going to make your bones thicker, and not in a positive way.
Okay, we know that ketogenic diets where there's no carbs cause bone loss and lowered bone density.
It's a big stretch to go from ketogenic diets that have no carbs whatsoever, which cause perhaps bone loss, to then jump and say we need to eat as many carbs as possible. That would be like saying we know that protein builds muscle, because if you don't eat any protein whatsoever, you lose muscle. And so you need to eat 500 grams of protein a day. You see how that logic doesn't make any sense? Once you reach 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, more protein isn't better. It doesn't build more muscle. And so to the same extent, you don't need more carbs. You can't just double up on your carb intake, because no carbs is not good for you, and think that that is going to make your bones grow that much bigger.
Eating a carb-rich diet can literally make you enter a second puberty and start growing again.
Yeah, no, it's not going to cause you to go into a second puberty. Eating extra carbs doesn't suddenly triple your testosterone levels and send your body into a second puberty. I mean, imagine, who eats more carbs than Coach Greg? You know how much bike racing I'm doing? You know how many carbs I'm drinking? I'm literally drinking sugar during my races. I haven't grown even a 1/4 centimeter in the last 35 years. And so you perhaps know Androgenic. He was on live streams with Clavicular for about a month. Very tall man. He's famous for having the hat and the wig on. Some guy jumped and ripped it off of him. And so he went to defend him.
So are we just fine with actual bullying now? This community used to be about self-improvement. Now it's a bunch of grown men acting like girls, making fun of each other in the comments section, photoshopping them to look worse, and now snatching a wig off, just like girls do. Just because Androgenic is a looks maxer and streaming in public doesn't give you the right to literally bully him and just grab something off of him in public.
I mean, just because you're on live stream, you can't go up to somebody and think that it's okay to bully them. Just because you don't like live streamers doesn't mean you get to treat them any way that you want. I mean, it's one thing if they're playing a prank on you, they run up to you and do something and you then defend yourself, hit them, get out of my face. But to just see somebody live streaming over there, not causing you any harm, and you go and...
hit them with your Cybertruck.
Why would you do that?
You'll only see people who are beneath you hating on you because they've got nothing else to do. Pull yourself together, mate.
As I'm seeing him here, this is before he had been passed away. Latest photo, literally in ICU, the last pic of Kent in hospital. A brain aneurysm in left cleft caused intracranial hemorrhage. And so we all know that looks maxers oftentimes abuse performance-enhancing drugs, whether it's IGF-1, testosterone, DECA.
So here's the thing, though. He's saying these in generics. He didn't actually, before making this video, find out what precisely this kid did or didn't do. So just to generically ramble off is one thing, but if you're actually speaking about someone specifically, you're making assertions and basically you're implicating that he must have done something that put him in harm's way, which is possibly true, but wouldn't you want to know what exactly those things were? And if you think about, okay, if we can agree that you need more than just calories from food, that despite what an MD, and this is how sad and pathetic allopathy is that they refuse to believe that you need vitamins or that vitamins would greatly affect your health in a positive manner or in a negative manner without them. And that maybe, just maybe, these mineral things are absolutely 100% legitimately something that you need. Now, if you put everything that you, and again, why? Because your body uses them to carry out the functions that you don't have to think about and the constant healing and rejuvenating and regeneration of your body. Now, as an example of regeneration, has anybody ever had a cast of any kind? Even if it was just a half cast, we had it on for a significant period of time on any part of your body. When you take that cast off, you see all the dead skin usually stuck on the inside of it. It looks kind of gross. Looks like a zombie weird thing going on. But do you recall how sensitive, it was like newborn baby type of sensitivity to that part of your body until it got used to it? They felt funny. Cold water was really cold. Hot water was really hot. Different sensations, wind, all these things felt really, really strange when you got that cast off, because that was the first time that the new flesh that was, because the old flesh was replaced already. The old cells were replaced. That was the first time they were basically breathing fresh air. So it wasn't a gradual thing that it normally is, where as rejuvenation occurs, you're getting, you still have it's happening not all at once in a big swatch or whatever, and then you feel sensitive and then it goes back. No, it's happening gradually over time, and it's the rest of your body and your arms or whatever getting exposed to the elements, so you're not feeling it all at once, like in that weird sensation. But that's an example of things that your body does without you having to think about it, and it will need building blocks, raw materials, in order to continue to do these processes, at the fullest potential capacity and with success, meaning not mutations, not compromises, not some other deformities or whatever in the cells, or worse, as it's doing these things. And that's just one example of all the other things that it's doing to heal you and maintain functions. Your vital force is in control, and you're on autopilot. It's actively working on these things. And that's where it ties into the pleomorphic microzyma that we talked about too. Now, if you need minerals, I'm focusing on the minerals because I think this is the part that people are having a harder time finding an absorbable form of a lot of times, because it needs to be bioavailable, passing through a plant, or at least microbes, in order to get it to you. If we can agree that, yes, we need these building blocks in order for the body to do what it's going to do. Well, when you take things like performance-enhancing drugs or these GLPs or whatever these other peptides are, and you're basically putting all of those functions in overdrive, and the doctors don't know exactly how many of these functions it's affecting, but it's affecting everything systemically, because that's how holistic things do. Regardless of what the doctor is trying to target with a prescription, it's going to have a full body effect. And that's what they call side effects may include, because it's a poison, but it forces this one thing. So fuck all the rest, It doesn't matter if you hit the bunch of innocent bystanders. The Autobahn car, still did a nice skid, even though you wiped out 15 people. You still, what do they call it? You still drifted pretty cool. If you agree that there is a need for these minerals, and then you put everything to overdrive, how much more quickly do you think you're going through those materials, those raw materials, the minerals and the vitamins and the nutrients? So it'd be more important during phases and times when you're taking all these other things, where whatever little, insufficient amounts of minerals you're getting from a natural, as in, a diet that's not deliberately supplementing, it's going to burn through those even quicker, causing more detrimental deficiencies without supplementation. Does that make sense? You're overworking the crew, but you didn't fill up their water. You're not giving them lunch breaks, and they're not getting any sleep. So eventually they're just dropping off. And as a result, they're the only two people who are left can't hold the drywall in the wind and slid in. It's just a big mess, right? Everybody's having a problem that day. So think about that. Think about whatever prescriptions you may or may not be on, and consider, maybe even the supplements I do take aren't the best. Maybe there's a low absorption rate. Maybe it's not the right form of these minerals, or these like calcium, magnesium, all this stuff. Maybe getting a different variety, and definitely the Fulvic-Humic blend, cycled into your routine, and you're making it a habit. And if you exercise a lot, you're going to burn through more. If you are taking other things that are supposed to hit the nitrous on your body, you're going to need more. You're going to need more, and we already start off with less than we need on a normal day, with normal performance. When you have everything that you need, you will be surprised just how much more vital and alive you feel, because everything's all systems go. You're not borrowing from one area, and your body's not prioritizing one thing over another because of the lack of, or the scarcity of, something that shouldn't be scarce. The extreme outcome of something like a deficiency is what we're looking at here.
Tren, growth hormone, SARMs, the list goes on and on. You may also remember one of the most famous, well-liked men in the world. His name was Jo Lindner, or Joesthetics.
Yes, at least he said it right. Joesthetics. Now, people are saying Joesthetics because J-O-E Stetics. No, his name is J-O, as in Johannes. Joe. It's me, Joe.
Brother, it's me, Joe. Hola, amigos. What's poppin'? It's me, Joe.
And he always used to say J-O. The aesthetics part is like the A-E-S, right? So it's Joesthetics still. It's not Joesthetics. He's a good dude. Yeah, man, it was surprising to me that he was actually responding to me on Instagram when I was asking questions. At this time, I was going through the process of getting a personal trainer's certification, and he was giving me encouragement there. It was just cool that he was responding back, and then we would just joke around sometimes. He was just a cool guy. And then before you know it, he's gone. It just sucked, man, because he was a cool dude. A real person. You don't get a lot of those, and it sucks when you lose a real person. Most people are a persona, and behind that persona, they're actually pretty rotten and hollow people that they know what they should be like because that's what their persona is. But they're only doing that to get you to think that they're worth your investment of your time, your money, or whatever, your trust. And that's really sad, but that is the case with a lot of people. And I always told myself, first of all, I couldn't possibly be, because it would take too much of me going completely off the tracks of what I am to get that way. But I would never let myself be anything like that type of a shallow, deceptive human being where what people see isn't what they get. And Joe was a good dude. And like I said, that's why it sucks, period, you know?
He passed away several years ago. He was in the fitness industry, millions of followers, gave advice how to be shredded, train in the gym, and so on. He also had an aneurysm. And so many people said, it's an aneurysm.
Dude, you went over that side now,
steroids.
asshole.
Other people saying, hey, aneurysm, anyone can get an aneurysm.
This is where he says this. No, it's not genetic, idiot. What the fuck does that even mean? That is the biggest cop-out. And then, hold on, because we're going to have to go through this now, because I'm sure it popped it up. Yeah, I said allopathic myth. It's genetic. That's what they always say when they don't know, because they don't want, if they tell you what it really is, then they reveal the secret that you can be healthy without them, and all you need is the essential nutrients that they've robbed from the food and the, that you were eating for hundreds of thousands or whatever years, and it always had what you needed in it, and it was a symbiotic relationship with nature. You could call it grand design or intelligent design, but then big ag or overproduction in the same soil, not replenishing the soil because that would cost money, yada, yada, yada. For the simple fact, too, that they don't want you to be at your optimal level, because then that takes money from one of the other industries that they have, grinding you into nothing, grinding you into powder called healthcare. Now, if you don't want to believe that it's a genocidal eugenics program, that's fine, but I can prove it. I can prove it's based off of Thomas Malthus. That same elitist Royal Society type group of people are deeply embedded in the Lurian Kabbalistic initiative that's going on right now. All that aside, saying that it's genetic is a cop-out. It's a way to stop people from asking questions. Genetic, so it's my fault because I was born with a weakness, because we don't breed. This again, think about when somebody says it's genetic, what they're promoting is eugenics. Because for them to say it's genetic, it's saying that if only there weren't such hasty breeding practices, this could have been avoided. So it's your fault. You're in mistake. Do you see how when someone says it's genetic, that's what they're actually implying, and that's what's actually informing this type of health practice? They're saying they're promoting their eugenic methodology, not so much philosophy, because it's more than that. It's a cultish belief system. And there's something too, obviously, don't breed with a 70 IQ light bulb headed Somalian if you want to have intelligent children who don't like to rape the goats. Obviously. But to call it genetic because of this random thing that happened, it was a defect in your body, and you're lucky that you made it this long, because you never were supposed to be in the first place. That's basically what they're saying. You see how that takes away all question as to what their practice is and what may have been a contributing factor that they may have made a mistake. that the doctors, the MDs that were he was in the care of may have made an error. No, it's genetic. It's completely your fault. You're lucky we were able to keep you around this long, because you just were never meant to be in the first place. You were a mistake. Eugenics was not followed properly. The generational breeding, poor breeding of your family and your shitty blood is what caused this. That is a really sinister, disgusting thing to say. It's genetic is a very cold thing to say, and it's a lie. But if they told you it was a mineral deficiency, really, what mineral? Well, all 90, but with emphasis on making sure you had a mineral form, absorbable mineral form, bioavailable form of copper, which Dr. Monzo and Morley Robinson referred to as either copper 1 or copper 0. This could have been handled just fine, provided that whatever was depleting him was also addressed. And the way he's about to describe it, he's going to say, there was a little soft spot. There was a weakness inside the but why, though? It was genetic. There was a genetic. So he lived all this time, did whatever activities he ever did, and then just one day up, all of a sudden, the thing that was always there because you said it was genetic, and it was only genetic in that one little area of his body. He didn't have multiple aneurysms imploding or exploding ruptures all inside of his body at once because he just like Swiss cheese exploded like spontaneously. It was this one little thing, and you're telling me that is genetic. Well, that weakness in that area would have been there throughout his whole life if he was born with it and it was developed into that. So why did it take this long? I'm sure he's exercised. I'm sure he's exerted himself. I'm sure he's done things. Why did it happen then if it's genetic? Things don't develop later in life and you can call them genetic. A deformity is typically a mineral deficiency, a nutrient deficiency. Well, you thought I was going to say it's genetic. Well, no, because did the mom and the dad have a deformity before they had the child, or did the child come up with a deformity? The fibromyalgia, that's something that can't be undone because you're born with it, but it's not genetic. It has to do with a lack of, obviously, all 90 essential nutrients, but I think with an emphasis on selenium. They don't want the solutions. They don't care about your suffering. Completely avoidable suffering, like your children coming out, conditions that they're going to have to live their entire lives with, and maybe that life will be cut short. So living with the condition they're okay with that. They're okay with the continual suffering, and they will fight vehemently and ruin people's reputations, careers, and take away their freedom and bankrupt them for trying to help people. But the whole point is, this is the sick, wicked cult that we're dealing with. So the more that you take matters in your own hands, the better. I don't think Greg is attempting to deceive people, but calling people an idiot or moron or whatever the harsh criticism is going to be driven by his college education, where he regurgitated some empirical knowledge. Empirical knowledge can be corrupt, which means it's not true knowledge. It's not gnosis. It's just memorization of something that you believe, that you took at face value and you were told by sources that you trust that this was correct. So when you regurgitate that and you get a grade, and that grade is good, and everybody pats you on the back, you feel like you're special. And you don't want to give that up, and you'll never question that information now, because that is what made you superior to somebody else. So when it's wrong, it's not like he's intentionally trying to deceive, but he is still making an error that's kind of inexcusable, because it's the ridicule and the condescending attitude, or the too sure of yourself without actually knowing, to where you're trying to pretend that you're logical and scientific, but in reality, you're anti-scientific because you're so confident because it's a belief that you hold strongly, not that you know for sure. They said it, it's gospel, end of story, must be this way. I said allopathic myth, it's genetic. No, it's a mineral deficiency. Mineral copper is required for your body to produce elastin. It helps prevent abdominal lining hernias. We already talked about this. Unless he had a clogging that led to some sort of log jam, but then we'd be discussing a stroke and not an aneurysm. He was not getting enough trace minerals, primarily copper, not metallic copper, plant-derived mineral copper. So he's about to say, it's genetic.
Genetic. And listen, people, it is both. The answer is these aneurysms can be caused both genetically as well as from using steroids. But it's actually a combination.
So what he just did there covers up something else. Now, depletion of the minerals would be what causes the aneurysm, or those quote-unquote mRNA poisonous shots that Joe got. So you can't just equate everything over to Joe and then say it's because he took steroids. He took steroids. Where's your aneurysm? If it happens to everybody, where's it at, bro? You see what I mean? So what makes it different? Oh, it was genetic and it's steroids. Your body wasn't meant to take. Do you know what the true reasoning behind why some people have a hypersensitivity, or they call them hyper responders, which are two different things? Hypersensitivity means like you have a reaction, an extreme reaction, but it could be good or bad depending on what the case may be. A hyper responder is what they reserve more for people who take steroids and get amazingly good results. But a lot of that is driven, of course, yes. If you have a narrow frame, turned over shoulders, and your body's just, your skeletal composition is not working out for you, adding size to that is not going to look as good as people who have wider shoulders. That part you can say is genetic, but what you're missing is how nutrified are their bodies when they were in the womb, when they were developing in the womb, developing afterward, and continuously, how nutrified are they when they're going through the process of taking these additional hyperdrive performance enhancing drugs? Because everybody's outcomes would be greatly improved if they were taking what their body needs in order to actually do the things that are being demanded of it at even a higher level now because of what you injected in them. It's a chemical that's it's demanding a certain function be hyper accelerated. That means it needs more stuff to do it. It's like, I want you to build a house in a year. I want you to build a house in a week. I want you to build a shed in a month. I want you to build a mansion in a week. You see the difference here? Then you would need more material. Got to consider all these things, because just to say that, oh, he's, some genetics or that and this the other thing, but what about the nutrients? What about the minerals, Greg? And I don't think he's unable or unwilling to know this. I just don't think he has, and he's 50. And he's made a whole career talking about how other people are wrong about things. Also a cookbook and this other stuff. And he's entertaining. And I don't think he means ill. But at the same time, there's nothing that's going to reinforce that you're right about everything than tens of millions of dollars in the bank, a mansion, a freaking McLaren, and your job, because you feel like doing it, is sitting here making a 20-minute video every day.
Of the two. And so this is what happens. If you are dealt a poor hand, your genetics, you have very poor genetics, perhaps you have higher blood pressure, you have more.
Again, this is all minerals, right? All the regulatory functions in your body, so if you just naturally have regular higher blood pressure, something happened in the developmental stage during pregnancy, and you could say, oh, well, the mother's genetics were weak. Why do you say that? Because they were lethargic, because they were out of shape, because they were a little dull intellectually? Well, let me ask you a question. How nutrified were they in the womb? How nutrified were they during their developmental years? And how nutrified were they when they were pregnant? That'll determine how nutrified the baby is. And then you can go around and tell me that something is genetic. Because what are we talking about when we say genetic? Are we talking about because it's passed down? Or because during the time when everything was being put together, neither the mother, meaning the mother didn't have enough of what she needed already. She wasn't getting the proper nutrients, and not expecting mothers. We don't live in a world where we have all these nutrients. And I don't care if you're taking that weird stuff that they tell pregnant women to take. You're taking all the synthetic shit that the MDs are still telling you to take, so it's not going to be what you should do. All right? If anything, and I know Dr. Glidden will say this, if anything, you don't stop the 90 essentials when you take fucking double. Because you're going to need it, and you're going to be burning it, and you're going to be giving it away to a new life. To think that you're going to, so you're calling something genetics because you're looking, it's more of like a condescending or a judgmental observation. You're looking at somebody who displeases you as a human being. You feel like you're better than them or the husband or whatever, and the two of them together, you're like, ew. And then you're saying, well, that's because it's genetic. Obviously, look, they don't have the best genetics. We don't know what are we talking about when we say genetics? Are we talking about whether or not they're too lazy to go to the gym? to eat healthy, to have all the minerals and nutrients that they need, how do we know what they would look like and what they would be like at their maximum potential for fitness and athleticism? Just because they decided not to do that doesn't mean that they can't do that and that they wouldn't be quote unquote hyper responders. But it all depends on what their intake is and if they're getting the vital nutrients that they need for the vital force. Same holds true when the next generation is developing in the womb. Once you're out of that developmental phase, the most crucial time, if things weren't available or they were scarce, people are going to look back and say that's hereditary, that's genetic. No, it's still the same thing. It's still the same issue that you didn't have what you needed then, and you're going to have probably greater sensitivities to being depleted of it now while you're able to take them in yourself rather than through a umbilical cord.
Cholesterol, atherosclerosis, arteriosclerosis, and so on. And if you then abuse steroids, you add on the performance-enhancing drugs, what happens is your blood pressure can go even higher and it can accelerate all of these problems. And so when you have an aneurysm, that is inside
Sciencey! Look, it's moving!
blood vessels. There's a weakened or a softer spot. Just think of it as
weakened or a softer spot. Elastin nutrients. Could it all manifest in one spot? Yes. But why? How? Even if you said it, well, actually it was deformity and it was just about to bust ever since you was a baby and it felt like you did. Okay, well, in that case, still, how did that happen? Through a developmental phase while he was in the womb, and it was deficiencies. Yet again.
When you blow up a balloon, you have a massive balloon, and sometimes there's a little spot where it sticks out, and you're thinking, why isn't it just completely circular? There's a weaker spot. Perhaps you were playing with it, stretching out the balloon. And so with each beat, the blood pressure, when it's higher, it's causing that part to swell out. Now,
again, do we see the problem with this whole analogy? It didn't take him out when he was a year old. It didn't take him out when he was 5. Something else caused a deficiency, putting yourself into overdrive with demanding chemical assaults, or some could say interventions, or introduction, a shock to your system by pinning or whatever way you're taking your drugs these days, could be orals, and already being deficient. And if he was deficient, and this is very likely the case, that everybody to an extent were most certainly, because we didn't know about this. Our parents didn't know about this. The parents probably were on taking some sort of vitamins, but how absorbable were they, and were they right form, and were they even any good? And were they all of them? Were they all the 9 essential nutrients? Thank God we get some from our food, but we're not getting nearly enough, and certainly not enough to support a second life inside of us. So to some extent, we are all products of that deficiency, and maybe that's why people are. And maybe it's not just the fluoride and the emissions of all these stupid, electromagnetic radiation that's making people docile. Maybe there's another developmental thing going on there. We have to factor all that in, because how is this? I mean, the conversation is circular, yeah, because it's still the same thing every time. Number one, we can't just look at somebody and say, we know what they would be like if they put forth the same amount of effort as the person who does 10 miles of cardio every day and lifts weights. We know that this person still wouldn't look good. We don't know that. And is that, we're assuming, like, I would imagine, yes, health, when it comes to that, or your ability to become fit and how you look aesthetically, is that what people say are good genetics? I mean, that's what they seem to imply, right? Is what appeals to others. Not being lazy, lethargic, bags under your eyes because of lack of, again, minerals and nutrients. You see this a lot with Indians. They have the notoriously like bad eyes, the dark rings, the darkness under their eyelids. That's because they have a shitty diet. The nutrients are what are the first line of questions that I would have about every single thing, from the developmental stage to now. And when you're hyper accelerating your body and you're not getting enough nutrients as it is, what do you think is potentially going to happen? Something bad.
Imagine if that were to rupture. Imagine it explodes. what do you think is going to happen? And so if you use steroids and your genetics aren't amazing, well, this
What does that mean, though? What in your genetics aren't amazing? Your nutrient intake isn't amazing, and your developmental phase of your life inside the womb didn't have the raw materials that it needed to be formed properly. So it came out weaker and permanently ill-formed. That's the only thing that you could say genetics over and over again for. Did amazing genetics. I'm a hyper responder. You probably had a couple more things going for you. You had the determination, the motivation, the drive, all these things. Well, it's the way my muscles, the framing out of my body. Well, yeah. But again, how do we, because we never have had a full several generations of everybody getting everything that they needed. So it's hit or miss in luck of the draw and luck of wherever your territory is and what kind of food you're being fed and all this, whether or not you're getting, is it the chemical spray shit? Is it not? We don't know that would, if it would even improve the way you frame out when you lift weights. We don't know how big of a impact this has.
A thing that can happen. In comparison, if he never used steroids, if he had normal blood pressure, he was doing everything healthy, the likelihood of getting this aneurysm, it's a lot lower. Doesn't mean it's impossible. Doesn't mean it still won't happen. Perhaps eventually would happen, maybe 10 or 20 years later. And so what steroids are doing is accelerating your rate of decline.
He didn't even confirm whether or not this kid was on steroids. And it could be that he was, could have been either he was on peptides, could have been he was on Ozempic, could have been a lot of different things. The way he's saying it, you already know he didn't check to verify.
It's accelerating or speed running yourself to death.
The same in the very first couple minutes or a minute of this thing, he said, we all know that a lot of people like clavicular looks maxers take performance enhancing drugs or steroids, or however way he framed it. He says, we know that they do, so let's just assume that this kid did. How hard would it have been to find out if Nocturnal Kent took steroids? Let's see. It's kind of funny because I said he looks like he was auditioning for Twilight, and he calls himself Nocturnal Kent. Nocturnal Kent has not publicly admitted to using traditional anabolic steroids, instead crediting his physical changes to methods like natural IGF-1 elevation and looks maxing to naturally stimulate targeted bone and muscle growth, which the science isn't sciencing on the claims that he made for those. There's something missing there. 6'2", he was 6'2". So they're just talking about other people.
You may not feel it. You may not notice it. And so, for example, at 50, I feel perfect. I feel healthy. Perhaps my blood vessels are great, but perhaps I have a weakened state in my blood vessels. And perhaps that was accelerated by the use of performance-enhancing drugs. And so imagine if I were still using them. Would I make it to 60? Would I have made it to 50? I don't know. Some people have amazing genetics. They're lucky. They abuse steroids and it doesn't kill them. Others, they use a little bit, gone. How do you know which one you are? And so when you use steroids, you in fact are playing Russian roulette with your health. And so on the forums in regards to his passing, does that mean no more 10 kilograms of sugar? No more IGF-1 signaling? Nocturnal Kent cause of passing, Queensland content creator remembered after reported brain aneurysm. The online community across Australia is paying tribute to Queensland content creator Nocturnal Kent, whose reported passing has deeply affected family, friends, and thousands of followers. Widely recognized for his engaging personality and genuine connecting with viewers, Kent built a loyal audience through content that combined humor, honesty, and everyday experiences. I'm going to have to just disagree with the honesty.
Well, no, because this is what I don't. I'm going to have to disagree with you saying that. Okay, if you feel and you think that if you're under the impression of something and you believe that it to be true, and you're actually actively implementing that method or that substance because you truly believe that it's going to create this positive result, that's not you being dishonest. That's you being mistaken. right? Because something worked better for you than this other thing, or the other thing didn't work at all, but you were still in the process of figuring that out. So in the meantime, you're stating that this is going to do this because of whatever, looks maxing bro science they're utilizing there. That's not the same as being dishonest. Being dishonest is a deliberate and conscious effort to deceive. It's Judaism. It's it's what they do every time they open their mouth, or strike a pen, or a little stylus, the carving kind from back in the day. That's what they do, because that's all they know how to do, is to like lie and invert this truth. But if you are honestly in the under the impression of something and you happen to declare that, that's not being dishonest, because you don't know that you're wrong yet. And I have to tell you, Greg, since we've been going through this video and I'm doing this analysis of it, you've been wrong about a fucking couple things there, buddy. But I don't think you're dishonest. I think you honestly believe that some of the things that you said, but you believe it, you don't know it. You believe that you know it, but you don't know it because it's not true. So therefore you can't know something that isn't. You can only believe something that isn't. Does that make sense?
I'm not sure it was totally honest, in regards to changing your face from eating more carbs and so on, but I get it. He's no longer with us. His friends and family don't want to
It's
hear
more than that, Greg. You don't need to be like that. That's very patronizing. I get it. He's dead, so we can overlook the fact that he was a liar about the sugar. That sounds like a really dumb thing for him to have said, Kent, about, taking a bunch of sugar because of what, the whole IGF-1, whatever, insulin, growth factor or whatever. It sounds like a great way to make yourself insulin resistant, honestly, and then get diabetes, but it's whatever. And that won't make it thinner or sink in your cheeks at all. That's not the same as being deceptive. And hey, what did he just say here? We don't want to say anything else. But again, dude, it's kind of a snarky thing to say when the kid just was misinformed. And if he honestly believed this, and he honestly thought, because the other things that I've seen this kid produce, seems like it comes from a genuine place. Seems like he's trying to be a genuine person. I mean, you could say that the thing that he's doing is superficial and artificial in the first place, but it seems like he's coming from a position of being genuine. You can be genuine and still be wrong, and then does that make you a liar? If you thought that you were telling the truth, is it really being dishonest if you honestly believed that you were giving good advice and good information? You can be honest and genuine and sincere and still be wrong, and that's okay.
Anything negative about him, and so, hey, I get it. Kent reportedly passed away following a brain aneurysm. While limited official details have been released regarding the circumstances, messages of support and remembrance have continued to appear across social media platforms as supporters reflect on the positive influence he had on their lives. While IGF-1 is a hormone that naturally mediates bone and muscle metabolism, attempting to manipulate hormone levels through unverified online protocols carries significant health risk. Guys,
but again, that's just people babbling, blah, blah, blah. Those are all generics. They didn't say exactly specifically what it was that he was doing in order to do that. Was he pinning? Was he swelling the IGF-1? Like, what do they call it? Isn't IGF-1 the same thing as like deer antler velvet? Let me see. No, deer antler velvet is not IGF-1. Rather, it is a soft cartilaginous tissue covering the growing deer antlers that is a dietary supplement because it is rich source. It's the same fucking thing. It's a source. No, it's not. No, deer antler velvet isn't IGF-1. It's a source of IGF-1. You fucking semantic cocksucker. Fucking. It's like a snotty little shit kid, right? Actually. now, yeah, there you go. There's the finger waving, N-word. Oh, man. It's like, stop already. Deer antler velvet contains various naturally occurring growth factors, collagen, and amino acids because it contains IGF-1, a potent hormone involved in growth and development. Athletes are advised to be highly vigilant. Synthetic and concentrated forms of IGF-1 are strictly banned by organizations like WADA, Wada Wada Bing Bong, And sports regulators warn that taking these supplements could trigger, my nigga, a positive doping test. Cool. Where do I get it? I just don't like the idea that the word insulin is involved in it. Insulin like growth factor 1. So no, deer antler velvet isn't IGF-1. It's just a massive source of it. Thanks, genius. Thanks. I think the regular IGF-1 is actually illegal, isn't it? So anything that they sell in these things are, especially from Force, that's like the Walmart brand. I don't think Force is sold anywhere else but in Walmart. It's the bullshit Chinese, may contain 80% lead and arsenic.
In particular, young men, teenagers, you can't just watch a young man, let's say he's 18, 19, 20, early 20s and so on, or frankly, anyone for that matter, who isn't a healthcare professional.
Right. Again, appeal to authority, appeal to the false, the fake expert. This is silly, but this is just how people think. And nobody's going to question. These are the things that I catch, and it bothers me more than it wouldn't even faze anybody else, like a lot of other people, because this is the problem with our thinking in the first place. Mankind is certainly not hijacked by a bunch of lying liars who lie. And of course, they're not going to produce through their systems of education, which they control, more people who believe falsely and dangerously things that aren't so that they can even unwittingly cause more harm to others that will please the agenda that is in playing always ever forward in the background. If they're a professional, well, where did this professional come from? Did they come from the planet Homeopathica? Did they come from planet Holistica? Or did they come from here? Because on this planet, there's a giant, disgusting, evil, vampiric, child-killing parasite that informs all of your science and health. So calling somebody an expert of the things that kill you doesn't make them anything but a threat, because they don't know what they don't know. And they're cultish in their belief system, and they're indoctrinated into not seeing anything but what it is that they've been programmed to do. So calling, oh, we need a healthcare professional. Don't get advice from this guy. Get advice from this other allopath who's just as fucked up and wrong. No. I have a better idea. I'm going to take all the things that that nature tried to provide for me in our food, and since there's a parasitic, vampiric, child-killing cult that's been getting in the way of farming and farmers and really screwing with them for well over 100 years, or even right here in this country, and making their lives miserable and poisoning the honesty and purity of their practice. I'll tell you what, I'm going to go seek out the things that are supposed to be in my food that I know nature had intended and actually made it pretty damn imperative that I have. I'm going to put all those right here, and then I'm going to do exercise. I'm going to exercise my mind by reading and studying, and I'm going to do cardio for stamina and endurance and fitness, and then I'll see what else I feel like I need to do to improve myself after the fact, because that's what I am doing. That's what I've been doing. I don't think I'm going to need to bone smash, because I don't care. But I'm in the shoes of these other kids. How about you start where everybody should begin? What is it that your body needs? Are you getting it? Probably almost 100% surely not enough, or not at all. You gotta have a little bit, but I mean, what kind of are you running on fumes? Are you just coasting? Are you sputtering out, or is your tank full? Start there. Instead of saying, "Oh, I need to go to a health professional who's never going to even talk about this stuff, never going to talk about this stuff at all, never going to tell you how freaking vitally important it is," they're just going to start you off on some regimen flavor of the week in whatever the pharmaceutical company is promoting that day. Oh, you sell a bunch of these prescriptions, and there's a Aruba trip in it for you. for the conference.
Comes to hormone manipulation. Like, you can't just think that this guy is cool, he looks good, he has a large following, and so I'm going to listen to whatever he says blindly.
So the problem with these kids, this is what he doesn't get. The reason why they're so misinformed isn't because they go on just Reddit or just whatever. It's because they are extracting information from allopathic mindsets and they're applying it, and they're showing and exposing the weaknesses of this practice that you don't normally see when people are just going to their doctors and following their directions, because there's a disconnect there where you wouldn't even consciously criticize or scrutinizing anything that they tell you to do. But when people just research their claims and then go out and do it and take it upon themselves to initiate a therapy or a treatment or a methodology, then it looks so weird to people, because when you see it actually in practice and it's not something that is just unmentioned because a doctor told you something, it looks as crazy and stupid as it actually is. So looks maxing is actually exposing this genocidal eugenics program for the inverted, ridiculous, and dangerous shit that it actually is. Because these kids are going out and they're maybe cherry picking, but they're finding information out there that's published, and they're saying, well, there's a potential here for this to do something. And then they will pursue it. And there's myopic, it's fractionated, it's not considering all the other nutrients that you need to actually make the optimization of whatever other thing you're going to do in your body to get to its highest level and make sure that you don't break your car down trying to put it in overdrive in the first place. They don't get all that information because the allopaths don't tell you this shit. That's a huge component in a big product or reason for their failures or their limitations and their dependency to actually go to a professional, healthcare professional. I'm doing air quotes again for the podcast people, air quotes, professional. It's like a glue trap. So you get stuck in the same thing no matter what.
Imagine if you copied him, trying to manipulate your hormones through eating massive amounts of sugar, bone smashing.
He didn't come up with that on his own. He read something somewhere and he thought to himself, well, I just don't think because this is a radical approach or an extreme way to apply this method that was hinted at. I don't think anybody's ever tried to do this. So I know this is going to work. I'm going to show that the results. And again, you're taking these bizarre beliefs or claims of allopathy, genocidal eugenics program that is intended to harm, but the people who are trained in it don't know that. And when you actually expose it to the light of day and show what you're actually doing, they're coming from studies. That's what my whole point is. It shows the absolute ridiculousness of allopathy. And that is one thing we can thank looks maxing for. And that's probably about it.
Listening to guys like Clavicular and so on, this is not the way that you learn. Please be careful. If you want to learn how to improve your bodies,
what was that?
Click on the link.
Did you just have a senior moment? He's like, he just pulled a freaking Clinton.
And get the Sculpt Act designed by Coach Greg and Eric Jan.
Now he doesn't even know who he is. He's talking about himself in third person. Sorry, Greg. It's time for you to take your nap.